It's all wonderful. Yet within that there are still preferences. There is still the involvement in life and the processes of life in order to have a certain kind of influence. Just like if you have this wonderful garden and you love this garden, you want to involve yourself in the garden in a way which maintains the health and the beauty and the pristineness to the best you possibly can. The garden as a whole, and sometimes that means that some plant might have to go, or some pest might start to be causing a disharmony, so it needs to be dealt with. But overall, the concern is you being an influence to maintain the health and the beauty and the pristineness of that garden. And spiritual service is a bit like that. It's not about you working your will, you deciding that that's no good and I'm going to fix that. And it's just about disharmony and harmony. And spiritual service is all about you choosing to use the energy that is available to you, the life that is available to you, in a way that you influence the creation and the maintenance of harmony and beauty and that pristineness. And you involve yourself in the processes of life in such a way that you are able to play whatever part the universe will delegate to you, to contribute, to influence, to co-create the ongoing experience of harmony, beauty, and pristineness. So there's no room for the small I. There's no room for what you think, what your opinion is. It's about co-creating harmony. It's about respecting free will. So there's delicate balances and points of tension to be maintained. It's about surrendering to the greater will. It's always about the greater will, not the will of the separate self, not the will of the ego. The ego has only two functions: to maintain the survival of the bioentity and to create opportunities to pass on its genes. That's all the ego's function is to do, to keep you alive, to keep the body alive, and to create opportunities to pass on the imprints that the bioentity carries. And there's a lot of different ways that that can occur. It's not just about passing on genetic material. It's well documented about the psychic imprinting that occurs from significant others during a woman's pregnancy. A woman can have a casual encounter and fall pregnant to a man, but be with another man who loves her, loves the developing fetus. And when the child is born, that child can have more physical characteristics associated with the father that was there, but not the biological father, than the biological father. And this is very well known. Even in the animal kingdom, if there's great love between two animals, a female dog, for instance, can have a litter of puppies, 10 puppies, and every puppy will have a different father. Yet all of those puppies, if one or more of those particular fathers hung around during the pregnancy and was involved in loving and supporting and nurturing, all the puppies, not just its own biological offspring, all the puppies will actually have physical and emotional temperament qualities which have been imprinted by the presence of that. It's a lot more than just passing on the genetic material. So the ego has a really strong desire to make its presence felt and to pass on its temperament, its characteristics, and imprint that strongly onto others. And a lot of the posturing games in business and government and even religion is that it's really the ego acting out, trying to pass on its imprint, its take on the world. And as those imprints come together, we have ideologies being created, and they're not necessarily divinely illumined or inspired. They certainly need reviewing from time to time to see how relevant they are to the human beings which are incarnate at that time in order to ensure ongoing spiritual growth. You don't get spiritual growth from locking a spiritual dogma in place and maintaining it for 10,000 years without change or revision. So the ego has its place. It's a wonderful servant and a terrible master. Yet many of you still identify with being the ego, and you let it be in charge of certain things. My ego expresses its preferences quite strongly often to me regularly, and for the most part I just ignore it. That's nice. I'm the boss. It doesn't tell me what to do. The ego, with its thinking, with its emotional body, with its physical body, the egoic self, it doesn't boss me around. It's existed for 50 years. I am a timeless, ageless being journeying through eternity that has worn many, many varied forms, countless forms in that journey. I'm in a better position to be the captain of the ship than this temporal self which has existed for 50 years and knows what it has experienced in that 50 years and nothing else. With its likes, its dislikes, its preferences, its aversions. And its desire to survive and imprint. Have you ever done any work with someone that holds themselves up as a spiritual teacher of some sort? But with this understanding that I'm sharing with you and the wisdom of hindsight, that you can see that that person's desire to imprint on others was a big part of their spiritual teaching work. You've experienced people like that? And they'll be blissfully unaware that that's happening. They'll have no idea that that is happening. However, that contaminates the clarity of everything which is coming through. As will needing to be liked by those that you are serving in a spiritual capacity. Many of you want to seriously move into mentoring in the spiritual ascension process. It's not about being liked. It's not about being approved of. It's about serving the needs for growth and integration of those that you are working with. So a lot of psychological clarity is required, and it's also vitally important that you spiritualize the ego so that its motivation is to serve spirit. I talk about in one of the videos how from 10 years or so ago, from an event that we did in Melbourne, where I'm speaking about how the ego and spirit can partner to end denial. That's very different than the way most of you use your ego. But when you enter into this relationship with the ego, instead of being emotionally invested in denial and avoidance, you encourage your ego to point out where there is denial and avoidance. And whenever the ego then tells you, hey, look, here's this place that where we're denying and avoiding and not loving the truth. It's like, oh, good ego. Yeah, good ego. You've done good, Thanks. Oh, God, I'm a good ego. Instead of treating it like the enemy or telling it to keep the truth from you at all costs about this so that you can justify self-destructive behaviour. That's not mastery. But entering into this joyful, playful relationship with the ego, which is not dissimilar to, a healthy relationship with a dog. A healthy relationship with the monkey is vitally important. But the monkey shouldn't be telling you what to do. The monkey does what it's told. But the monkey has to trust you. So you have to be a good captain of the ship. Love yourself, attend to its needs, educate it so that it understands that letting you be in charge as the indwelling entity, that you will always be present, that you won't just drift off and leave it to its own devices and that you're always going to be there for it, you're always going to be attending to its needs, and it's an important part of the equation. You must enter into that kind of relationship with the monkey. So if any of you are dog lovers, I hope you don't, after the retreat, go home and go, oh, hello my dog, I love you so much. Now look, this is what I've just learnt over the last couple of weeks. What do you think I should do next? Are you going to go home and ask your dog or your cat? Or what's the next thing you should do as far as your ongoing ascension process is concerned? You're not going to do that? No. Well, why do you keep asking the monkey what it thinks? Why do you keep asking the monkey what it thinks? Do you know how foolish that is? What do you think about the eternal growth process within the context of spiritual evolution and ascending descension? Oh, well, because I like to think that I'm important and I love to imprint and all this sort of stuff, well, I think this. Oh, okay, all right. Oh, great monkey guru. Remember I talked about the eagle on the ground thinking it's a turkey, flapping around making turkey noises? That's about as sad as it gets. Asking the monkey what it thinks all the time. Asking the monkey to think about the unfathomable mysteries of the universe and work it all out You may as well ask your goldfish. It's pathetic. Stop it. Stop it. Love the monkey? Ah. But it's got its place. It's not in charge. It's a sophisticated monkey. There's very little difference between the genetic makeup of a chimpanzee and this. The big difference is the indwelling entity. And the capacity for spiritual illumination. It's important to keep it groomed, clean, healthy. Healthy diet, but a healthy emotional diet's equally important. Healthy mental diet, healthy spiritual diet, equally important. And you get your priorities sorted. What are your priorities? If you put a lot of energy into this monkey being liked and approved of by other monkeys, then that's probably going to get in the way of your true spiritual growth in the eternal sense. If a big part of your self-esteem is based on how sexy the other monkeys find me, then that's probably going to massively reduce your capacity for spiritual illumination and spiritual growth. If you put a lot of time and energy into impressing the other monkeys with how smart and intelligent and clever you are, oh, my monkey's cleverer than your monkey. You put a lot of time and energy into that, you're probably going to massively limit the potential for spiritual growth and integration for obvious reasons. If you're going to play emotional, manipulative monkey games, you've got to be better than that if you're going to succeed. Spirit clothed in matter. No intermediary between you and Source. Your soul laid bare. And you take instruction from Source, your own creative Source. If you're not getting answers, you're not asking the right questions. Creative Source will never dictate. But if you keep asking the right questions, it will become obvious to you. The best question is, well, if you and me, what would you do now? That's very different than, Source, tell me what to do! You never get an answer for that. But it's like, a creative Source. Give an impression of how you would be, what you would be, what you would be doing, how you would be being if you were me right here, right now. And you do start to get those impressions and ideas and concepts coming through. But you can't pick and choose the ones that you like. It's not like the tarot cards. It's like, oh, don't like that one. Oh no, I don't like that one. Ah, so, yeah, see, I told you. It's not like that. It's not like that. So to trust Source, you as the indwelling entity, to trust Source, and the monkey's got to trust you. You can't expect the monkey to trust you if you don't trust Source. See? So if you expect the monkey to trust you, then you have to trust Source. The eternal Source presence. And invite it into your life. Now, even if you make contact with that eternal Source presence, the I am presence, that some people call it, but then you don't allow its space in your life to create. You still kind of want to work the will of the monkey around pleasure and comfort and being a big fish in a little pond. There's no room for Source to be here. If you're going to embrace rigid, constricting, repressive dogmas and live that in your life like it's actually somehow important in the eternal sense, there's no room for Source in your life. So you've got to let go. You've got to allow. You've got to be receptive. So you can get the attention of your creative Source. And you'll start to get Source grounding, anchoring here in the fringes of its form embodiment here. But if you don't take Source's presence seriously and act out of it, Source just withdraws and looks for another expression of itself, which is actually willing to allow Source to be in the driver's seat. That which you call I has existed for a few short decades. And at the end of this life, it will decay away. It will return to the earth. It's something that you're wearing. You have a mind, but you are not your mind. You have emotions, you are not your emotions. You have a body, but you are not the monkey. Mother, Father, God, how may I serve? Show me how, and help me to integrate the understanding, the knowing and the skills that I need to be of service. And there is nothing else. Everything comes from that. And Spirit will show you how to illuminate every aspect of your life and your living. I remember when I had such a talk from a most amazing woman in the early 90s. I had the opportunity to spend about 8 weeks with pretty much every day, all day, long days, studying with her. And I started to realise that I had to fundamentally reorient my consciousness in this way. So then I would spend hours a day sharing with her my understanding, where I was coming from, emotionally, physically, psychologically, channeling. And she'd just say, "That's spirit talking, that's ego talking." And it was usually, "That's ego talking. Michael, that is all just ego. That has nothing to do with grounding and expressing love," she'd say. Oh. But I wanted to know, so I just kept going, "What about this? That's 70% ego." So this is the bit which is spirit talking, and this, and I went, "Oh, really?" And I knew she was right. So it gave me this really clear blueprint of where the ego was still in the driver's seat. It took a lot of courage, and I was demolished at the end of it. But most of you don't want to ask those questions because you know that you're operating as an ego, as a monkey, and you're trying to protect the monkey from being exposed or embarrassed, or there's no room for any of that. Who cares if the monkey's embarrassed? If you're training your dog, are you really concerned about whether the dog's embarrassed or not? How big a factor is the dog's embarrassment in training the dog? So why are you concerned if the monkey's embarrassed? Think anyone's going to remember or write it down somehow, or put it on the Channel 9 News tonight? Monkey number 47,836 today was embarrassed. That monkey thought it was the sexiest monkey in the room. Monkey finds it was not. Or that doesn't even matter. Big deal. Headlines all across the planet. No. If you really want to grow, you have to be identified with Spirit. And the true measure of someone committed to mastery is the willingness to allow the monkey to be embarrassed and humiliated in the name of spiritualizing of the monkey. So there's a challenge for you.